Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome into the Loretta McNary Show. So, my guest today is a true fixture in daytime talk television. For nearly 3 decades, he has stood at the intersection of truth, accountability, and real life conversations that matter. He is a former U.S. Marine, a former Chicago police officer, worked with the Jerry Springer Show, and now is making his own mark in the beautiful world of truth telling, impact reaching TV. Everybody, welcome Steve Wilkos to the show. Good
Thank you.
morning.
Thank you, Brad. Good morning.
So I know you attribute a lot of your, uh, it was not a career path for you. You just happened to moonlight as a security guard for the Jerry Springer. And one thing led to another. Congratulations on your 19th anniversary. Mine is 20 years this year, too. So, audience first saw you on Jerry Springer's as his bodyguard, then as a guest host, and eventually as the anchor of your own show. What did it take internally for you to step out from behind the scenes and own the responsibility of now leading those conversations?
It was less nerve-wracking for me to be on the streets of Chicago and dealing with really bad people that had guns and weapons and everything else than saying, "Hey, you're going to host your own show." It was like somebody was handing me a nuclear bomb. But the good thing was I did get my feet wet being on the Springer Show and took a lot of nerves out of it. But the thing was back in those days, they were launching a lot of talk shows, and a lot of them failed, probably about 90% of them. So here I was on a hit show when I knew I had a long run on it to, rolling the dice and saying, "Hey, you're going to get your own show, but there's a good chance you're going to fail." But I had my wife who was working on a Spring Show, and she came over with me and was producing my show. And I've always had confidence in myself. I said, I'm never going to fail in anything. I might not be the best, but I'll make it. And we did a formula of saying, "Hey, Steve, you're a good policeman, and we're going to take that policeman off the streets of Chicago, and we're going to put him on stage." And we just said, "You're going to be yourself," and it's worked. And I'm very fortunate to be here 19 years later.
And what an impact you are making. So you carved your own line. You did not try to be another Jerry Springer. You did not try to be someone else. I love how you just transitioned. You took your authenticity and it just worked for you. And it works for all of us when we do that. So what's the most important approach to topics like you cover domestic violence, addiction, family breakdown, but you do it with firmness and integrity? Was that your unique personality type in a way, or you learned that that's what worked on television?
I think I got a lot of lessons from my dad, because my dad was just very firm, but his way kind of guy, and he was fair, but you had to toe the line. And so I kind of tried to just I always said I didn't want to be my dad growing up because I was kind of nervous around my father, because he was a little heavy-handed, but there was a reason for it. And so I tried to always live my life like my dad. He had a lot of integrity, and he was fair, but he was very firm. And when I became a policeman, I thought I was always fair with everybody. I always got into it for helping people. I didn't want to hurt anybody, and even to this day, I don't want to hurt anybody. I want to help people, and so I try to do the best that I can. I've made mistakes over the years, but you live and learn, and you just keep going forward. But I think that we've impacted a lot of people, not only on the show, but over the years, I've gotten thousands of emails from people saying, "Hey, I watched your show. I got out of a domestic violence situation. Hey, I was being sexually assaulted, and your show gave me the courage to speak up and get out of that." So I take a lot of pride in the fact that over the years we've helped a lot of people who've watched the show.
Absolutely. So this is a great lead into my next question. You were saying the comments and the feedback, positive comments and feedback. So was there a particular episode, or I'm sure probably more than one, that really stands out in your heart and your mind and reminds you of why you decided to give the networks a yes to hosting your own show?
It's really at this stage of my life, like when I look back, in fact, the last 3 weeks, ABC has aired shows, a documentary about all the talk shows from the 90s. And I was in a lot of those clips, and I don't remember them. I mean, honest to God, I saw a girl licking whipped cream off my toes on one of the Springer shows, and I would have never remembered that in a million years. So my point is, when you do it and you do it so often, you've done it so long, things do become a blur. And there's certain particular shows I remember, like when the woman, she threw the bowl and it hit me right, in the head above my eye. And I remember thinking, they were like, "Oh, we're going to take that out. Don't worry about it." I'm like, "No, leave that in." And it was the highest rated show. So people were really happy either to see me get hit by a bowl in the head and I fell to the ground, or, so it's those kind of, you have those kind of memories. But, there is a real energy and you're dealing with the same thing that you did as a policeman. People that really need help, that are in tough situations. Now they're just standing on my stage. It's the only difference.
Oh, wow. I love how you made that parallel to being a police officer now hosting the show. So, daytime television and nighttime television has really shifted over the last few years, especially during the pandemic. Yet, Steve, your show continues to grow, reaching new audiences across broadcast and social platforms. So what do you believe keeps you so relevant to your audience?
Well, I'll say this, and I don't like to criticize other shows, but when I watch other shows, I find they're not authentic. That the host sometimes, comes across as disingenuous. Like, I don't believe what they're saying, and they're asking silly questions that nobody cares about. And I think people know that I'm not going to waste my time with that. I either like you or I don't like you. And I've said on the show, I don't like you, So I think that we don't play games. We're really, we're dealing with real situations. We're not talking about some stupid movie. And listen, I get it. I don't want to criticize that. I don't want to see it become too harsh. People go on shows that promote themselves and do this and that. But everybody does that. We're the only show that does what we do. And I think that's why we're successful. We took, the pie's only so big. We got our own little piece that nobody goes after. And then the rest of them, they're all going for the same thing. So if you want to watch a celebrity talking about, what they had for breakfast, you go there. If you want to see people with really live problems that, they're trying to get help with, then you come to the Steve Wilkos Show.
Absolutely. And that's how I've always been. I never wanted to interview them and ask, well, how big is your house? How many cars you have? I always lead with, what's your impact? What is next for you? How are you helping other people? What keeps you up at night? So having said that, Steve, as you enter into season 19, which is a huge landmark for daytime television, what excites you the most and where is your show headed? What can we look forward to?
Well, we're at the tail end. I'll tell you that. This is a really changing business, to say the least. When I started in this business, it was only like 3 major stations. There was no internet. There was no social media. TV was a huge, powerful draw, and it's diminished greatly over the years. I'm hoping to get into season 20, and it's looking good. But I think once I do 20 years, that's probably the end of the road for me. And I'm 60. I'm going to be 62 pretty soon. And quite honestly, I thought I'd be retired a long time before this. So I'm trying to smell the roses because I know the end is there.
You're doing a fantastic job. We're going to say 20, you say 20, but who knows, right? We'll talk about that later. But where can people find you, Steve? I'm in my 20th year, so I'm not quitting. I'm going to keep pushing this baby all the way. So
yeah, I mean, listen, I would probably do the show as long as they'd have me. But if your listeners out there want to check out where I'm at, you go to stevewilkos.com and, they can check the local listings where it airs.
Well, thank you so much, Steve. It's been a joy to have this conversation. You truly are that person that they say you are. You're straight hitting, you are filled with empathy, and you want to see everybody win, but you don't take the crap and you're not going to let them leave the way they came, better or worse. So thank you so much for your time today. Hopefully you'll come back and be my guest again, or reverse. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Bye for now. All right. So Steve has to go. He's doing more interviews, and I'm so glad he came on. He really is the person that they say he is, and the person you see on his talk show after all these years of being on first Jerry Springer show and now his own show, and being our guest, kicking off this very amazing season for us as well. So thank you all so much for watching. We do have another segment coming up next, so don't go too far. We'll be right back with the Loretta McNary Show.